So hello and welcome back to our July PowerShell Usergroup Meeting. Today we are talking about Maester. I don't know how to pronounce. Fabian, I think you can clarify this. Your Microsoft 365 tenant automation framework. Just a little bit about myself. I'm Konstantin. I'm living in Bavaria in Germany, and you can reach me on Twitter or on LinkedIn. If someone wants to present at my user group, we have CFs open in Sessionize, so you can submit a session proposal, a request, and I will come back to you so that we can find a date or check out your topic and so on. So please do. We are always open for proposals. So the session will be recorded. So anyone is muting the microphones, thank you very much. You also can ask questions through, I think Fabian will be here to answer the questions. And I think you can also interrupt him. I will ask questions. I will monitor the chat so that Fabian don't have to do this. And yeah, just a quick PSConf.eu recap. I see some familiar names who I met at PSConf.eu, PowerShell Conference EU Antwerp this year. Just to clarify what PSConf.eu is. PSConf.eu is PowerShell Conference Europe. So it's a PowerShell-centric event in Europe. This year it was in Antwerp in Belgium. And we do a 4-day from Monday to Thursday. The event will happen. We don't know where it will happen next year, but it will be there. You can attend. It's the event for everyone, so it's not an event where only the advanced people can join. So it's also an event where all levels of PowerShell are welcome. I think the community is very inclusive and is very welcoming, and you can ask every question. The speakers are also very welcoming. You can talk to them and so on. So I was a speaker this year. Fabian was a speaker this year. So I think Fabian, if you want to talk about from your perspective how it was as a speaker, how do you like the event? So this year's
I think it
conference
was a really, really awesome event. Not only from a speaker, so I was also an attendee, so I had 2 talks, but also 2 days and a bit more to listen to other great speakers from around the world. And what I really like about the conference is how approachable everybody is and how nice it is just to be in a room with so many like-minded people. Everybody is interested in doing PowerShell stuff, interested in automating stuff, and a lot of different projects, backgrounds, and ideas you get over the course of the 4 days. And of course, there's also a really nice community event. It was this time on the 2nd day. Yes. And they were even kind enough to let us sleep in a bit on Wednesday and started a bit later. So it was just an amazing experience. Antwerp was a nice city to host this, and I'm really looking forward for the next one and also the mini-conf coming up.
Yes, right. Yeah. So if you want to check out the PSConf.eu team and all the attendees and all the speakers will be there again. So it's a virtual event which will be hosted on Gather. So it's like a 2D Minecrafty environment where you have your own avatar and so on, and it's free. So it will happen, I think, on the 15th of October. I think it is. You can find all infos on psconf.eu. And the speakers, they are not only from Europe, so some people will be there from the US. So also the PowerShell team was there this year. They tried to attend every year. So I think there was no PSConf.eu without any PowerShell team member. So Steve Lee, for example, was here, and Amber was here from the PS Resource Get team, and so you can engage with the product team directly and give them some feedback, and also talk to well-known people. So I think you see nearly every year, the same persons, the same speakers. So it's a real cool event where you can see your favorite persons in the PowerShell world nearly every year. Once a year. So if you want to join for next year, I think Gail Kohlers is the one of the organizers, with Barbara, Alexander, Thorsten Butz, I think also is there. He will Twitter, so when the next event is happening, when the ticket sale is up. So please watch psconf.eu and also all the Twitter, LinkedIn handles and so on. There will be so much more information, and also the recordings are out. So if you go to psconf.eu and check out the recordings menu, you will find all recordings for 2024 to I think the last 4 or 5 or so are on. You can check them out on YouTube, so that you get some information what the topics are. Also, there was a concept, I think it was the last 2 confs, where some kind of a follow-up session stuff, so that the speaker brought some kind of a lab environment, and you can do a live try, and the speaker will help you if you have some problems and so on. So that was a very interesting stuff. And also the open my laptop session on the first day also was very interesting. So there was a big ballroom. You sit on a table, have your code there, and ask people if they can help you or if you want to interact and so on. So it's not only sessions, so it's very much about the community. And one sentence was, I think it was the first opening keynote was, make it your PSConf, so you don't have to attend every session. So
glielo scrivo quella proposta.
Chat with your people and so on.
Hola, Chiara.
Good. I think I have to mute someone. Good. So I think if you have any questions, just ask us. I think there were also 2 or 3 other attendees that I saw in chat. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact anyone who knows about PSConf.eu. It's a very cool event. But we are not at PSConf.eu. We are the user group. So we have also a speaker here today. Fabian will be our speaker, and he will talk about, can I say, your product, or you're one of the developers, inventors of this product. So I will monitor the chat. The stage is yours. Stage is yours. Yeah, you developed it with your colleague, I think, Thomas Nauenheim, I think, and the PM from Microsoft, Meryl, I think.
Yeah, correct. Right? Meryl Fernando. Yeah. And so let's dive in. First of all, thank you for having me. Yeah. Today we want to talk about Hello Maester, your Microsoft 365 test automation framework. And a few words about me. So I'm Fabian Bader. I work as a cybersecurity architect at Lücken, and you will find me on my blog, proudbrothers.info, as well as on many of the socials under Fabian_Bader. And I also have a user group, security and PowerShell. So if you ever are in Hamburg and want to join, or also hybrid, please feel free to check us out on Meetup. But before I start with my session, quick raise of hands. Who has used Maester in the audience? Okay, at least one person. 2, 3. Okay, that's great. So we have all 4. Nice. 5, it's going on. Yeah, nice. So like half the people already have tried it. That's great. So some of it will be very familiar to you. But for those who haven't yet tried it, so what is it? What can Maester do for you? So if you want to check it out, we have a really nice website. It's called maester.dev. And there you find every resource to actually get started. But why should you get started? So if you ever tried to manage an online environment by Microsoft, so mainly Entra ID, that was the initial starting point of the project, you might know stuff like conditional access. And you know that there are plenty of best practices, there are templates you can use. And yeah, some of those templates are really good, ready for use, others aren't. And depending on your environment, maybe none of them are usable out of the box. But if you still want to have all the best practices in your environment, it can get really hard, because with conditional access, it's like really easy to make a mistake. It's easy to miss something, to exclude, that attackers can then use to bypass your meticulous crafted conditional access rule set. Because in the end, conditional access was always advertised by many as the firewall rule set. But other than a firewall rule set, conditional access does not have the concept of this is the last rule that will hit, so like a block or deny at the end. And this means that if you don't hit anything in between, you will just walk through. And on the other hand, it can also be a really bad day if you discover, oh no, something has gone really wrong and I want to access my environment because I have an emergency access account, but then this happens. You have set up all your conditional access policies, but forgot to exclude your emergency access account in one of those. And suddenly you are unable to recover your tenant easily. Now you have to try to reach Microsoft support. You have to explain to them that this is really your tenant. You must explain who you are, what your company is. And after some back and forth and most likely some sweaty hours, you will get back access to your tenant. But yeah, that's really, really annoying. And why not try to avoid this from the beginning? That was the main idea that Meryl and I had at the end of last year. And we're thinking about how we can make it easier for everybody to just test their conditional access policies for best practices. And in the end, make sure that they work as advertised. Each time you deploy something, you can test it. And what we build is a tool that gives you two options. One is you can do a like one-off assessment. So this is perfect if you have like a customer, you are a consultant, or you are an admin, and you just want to see how is the state of security within this environment, my environment, and you can just run it. You get a nice report at the end. And the best part is you can even add custom tests. So for all the consultants out there, maybe you know something better than us. Perfect. Build your own tests or contribute it to the Maester open source GitHub repository. But maybe you have something you don't want to share with everybody, or it's your tenant and you know best what you want to test and you want something special. No problem, add your own test. Those one-off assessments are, of course, not the complete picture. It's always this one snapshot. So we thought about, let's try to build this in a way that also allows you to have a continuous evaluation. So maybe you already are one of the few lucky ones that deploys their conditional access through either some DevOps pipeline or GitHub pipeline. And you just want to test if it's everything okay after I deployed the latest set. So this is exactly what Maester also can do for you. So you plan, design all the configs, you implement all your config as code stuff, and then you have your integration code running. But now you have to test it. And that is where Maester comes in. You have predefined tests, a big set of tests that tests on the one hand side, the conditional access part, and on the other hand, different security settings in the tenant. And as a result of this, you can now run your config as code, run master, and if anything is not working as designed, then master will tell you that. Master will give you a nice little report and say, hey, this didn't work. So please have a look and maybe change your code. But even if you don't do that and you are not completely at the point where you can be like, yeah, I have everything in my GitHub and just change something there and it will be deployed, master can be really, really helpful. So let's have a look together. So in my terminal, and I hope everybody can see quite well here, I have an empty folder, but I also already have loaded the master module. I'm using here the preview version, and that is also something that is relatively new. So we build a preview channel where you can test the latest and greatest master, but also we have a stable version that you can rely on if you don't want to be the guinea pig of our new inventions. So if you go to the PowerShell gallery, you will find that currently version 2.0 is the latest and greatest in the stable branch, but that we also have a lot of different previews. This will always publish if a big new pull request is coming in. So this is really the latest and best that we can offer. After you installed it, of course, you can just do install module, master, and either allow pre-release, or if you want the stable one, just use the regular install master command. What you now have to do if you just want to get a report is that you create a folder, and I created already master temp 3. And now you think, oh, let's start master. But before you start master, you have to have some tests. And for that, you can use the install master tests command. Just press enter. And in the background, it will reach out to GitHub and download a lot of different tests here. So you can see we have the CISA tests. We have a folder for your custom tests, the so-called 8SCA tests. 8SCA stands for Entra ID, Security Configuration Analyzer. And this is where my colleague Thomas Naunheim comes into the picture. When we build all those different tests, we were like, okay, there is stuff in the community out there, and why invent the wheel twice? And we reached out to him, and all those tests are reliant on a framework he already had built. This is completely built in like JSON files, and everything is defined there on how to test this and all that. And we now just use this JSON and generate automatically the needed commandlets. And then we can just test everything that is defined in this part of test framework as well. And of course, we have our own tests. So when we just have a look here, you will see there's master, Entra, and then we have a few different tests in here. Yeah, no, that's fine. You'll see it's not that much tests as in like test files, but each of those test files can contain multiple other tests in there. We will look at that in a bit. So now you have installed the tests, you have installed the module, and now we want to connect. And to connect to master, you have to have some session open where you can like be in the Entra portal. So I'm connected here with my test tenant. Now I can call connect master. And since I was already connected, it's not throwing me to the browser. Otherwise, it would open the browser and say, hey, do you want to sign in? In the background, we are using the Microsoft Graph module. So if we take a look in the loaded modules, we will see that the Microsoft Graph authentication module is loaded. This is the only module that we need from the Microsoft Graph module, so you don't have to install the whole thing with all the thousands of different commandlets that you most likely won't need. We only need that for the initial connection, and we use the invoke graph commandlet in there as well. We wrap something a bit around it because there's no paging support in the native one, so we have an invoke empty command, and that helps us deal with that a bit. So now we are connected and we can finally run our tests. So we like invoke master, and you can see if I don't have this in a correct sizing, it has a nice logo, and we are running tests. You can see up here running tests, processing, and in a few seconds we should also see which ones it's testing. And each test has a unique ID. So it's called MSAAD 7.8. Those are the CISA tests. So CISA is the American security organization. In Germany, this would be something like the BSI. They also publish like guidelines on how to configure stuff. And the CISA tests are exactly that, but from the CISA. You've seen maybe the 8 scar, and now we are at the MT tests. So in total, we have about 139 tests, and at the end, you will get the prompt, creating HTML report, and there we go. This is the report you will get, or of course it will be different in your environment. As you can see, my environment is maybe not up to speed when it comes to security. Now you think, oh no, he's a security consultant but can't even manage his own environment. Yeah, maybe I test stuff and actually want stuff to fail, but enough excuses. In this, you now can like filter for certain things. You have this nice summary at the top, so your management will love it. The more that gets green, the more you can show off. And you also have this little filter down here where you can be like, oh, I only want to know about the FIDO stuff. Let's look at that. And there we have different tests in here where we have like, okay, is FIDO enabled? We can see, yeah, well done. This is enabled, perfect, good to go. But there's also one failed one, and it says, oh, yeah, enforce attestation. You can click on this, and there you will get the information. Oh no, FIDO should be, an attestation should be enabled. And in this version, it's not yet implemented for this test, but we will look at another one where you can see that we not only try to say, hey, this failed, but we also want to try to tell you, hey, this is how you can make it better. So let's go to something down here and see, okay. Okay, this is like conditional access policy. And then we have the remediation actions down here. So there's a link to the Microsoft Learn article where it is explained, hey, how I can block legacy authentication. What do I have to do? What do I have to set up in my environment to do this correctly? Others in here are like, okay, with really meticulous steps where you have to go in Entra, go under identity applications, then security, consent and permissions, and set this to do not allow user consent. And then you have additional links where you can jump directly into this setting in your tenant and change it. So right away, I can go in here and say, do not allow user consent, because this was exactly what the recommended action should be. So for the test MSAAD 5.2, We now can change this, save, and if we now rerun this, we will get a little green test. And since we don't want to run everything, we can now also give a tag with it. So we had the, where is it, 5.2. Down here, you can see there are different tags. And if you only want to run exactly this test, you can use this number. So let's run this again. This should be a bit faster as before because we only have to do one test and not all of them. Yep, was faster, and hey, passed. Everything's fine now. Of course, not everything is fine, just that we only ran this, but you see it's immediate and you get the feedback if this works just by rerunning the master commandlet. We try to build up this knowledge base on how to make it better and how to improve the environment more and more simple so that in the end, this module is really your personal master. So the idea behind the name is, if you have watched Game of Thrones, there is like those master people. They read all the books, they know everything, and they are like your personal recommendation, your personal helper, and they guide you through all that. And this is what this module should be for your cloud environment. And as more easy we can get this information out to people, the more we hope that people will use this information to actually secure their environment. Now, we have seen that there's a lot of failed tests, but there's also a lot of skipped tests. And the skip reason can be for different reasons. So in our case, if we have a look, we have this 8-scar test, and this is recently added. We now have a better explanation why we skipped something. So in this case, the settings value is not available, and that is because in newly created tenants, Microsoft is not offering this API anymore. Bummer. Okay, this one we won't get any information soon, but let's look at something else down here. Exchange. Oh, skipped, not connected to Exchange Online. Yeah, so how to solve that? Easy peasy, just click the link, and there you get the explanation. Okay, I have to install, depending on what I want to test, Azure, then I need the Azure module, or I need the Exchange Online Management tool. Luckily enough, I already have this module loaded up in here. But what to do next? Oh, I can use Connect Master with a switch, and this switch is called Service. So let's try that. Connect Master, Service, and of course we have tab completion, so we can say all, then it will try to do Azure and everything else. We can select, oh, I just want to connect to Azure, I just want to connect to Exchange Online, to Graph, Security Compliance, or again, now we are back at the beginning, all. In my case, I'm already connected to Graph, so I just want to add Exchange Online tests to the mix. Let's do that. Now you can see finally there is a prompt on what exactly, which account I want to use. I have to select that. And the first time I do this, it of course will prompt me for the correct permissions, especially in Graph, so I have to consent. And I already see a question in the audience about what permissions do you actually need. So
I don't want to interrupt you, so yeah.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
Came at the right time. So as you can see, for Exchange Online, we need this view-only configuration or the O365 support view. In the Azure part, it's normally the read permission that we need. And for the Graph part, we have this documented here. Let me just search. Permissions is down here. Well, where is it? Oh, down there. This was the wrong one. That's also the wrong one. Okay, I see the. There we have it. Okay, you need to do most of the test, those read permissions. There is a particular test for the role eligibility that is a bit messy, because with just read, we cannot do that because how Microsoft has set up this permission part. And that is why we need the read-write directory for the role eligibility schedule. If you don't like that, that's okay, because we all want to do it secure. There is one test that will fail at the moment, but you still can grant all those read all permissions and get most of the tests correctly done. And this is also why this test currently is optional. We will run it, we will skip it if you don't give the permissions. But those are the core permissions that you need to set up and that we ask you to set up if you connect for the first time. All right.
So if you want to add your credentials to Exchange Online, is this a permission you have to set in Exchange Online? But how do you connect this to Maester then?
Oh, so yeah, that depends.
Yeah.
In this case, I'm connected interactively, so my user has to have this role. Right. If we are talking about something like a pipeline, then I would use something like a managed identity with a so-called federation. I will show this in a second.
Yeah.
Let me just run those tests, and while those tests run in the background, we can look at the managed identity that we can use.
Oh, so nice.
This will run, and while this is running, let's go to the Entra portal and have a look at all those nice applications. And there should be an app registration somewhere for my Maester. Let's see. How did I name it? Yeah, that looks good. So in this case, this particular app registration does not have yet the permissions for Exchange Online. I only have the permissions for the graph. So you can see that in there we have the different permissions for graph set up, and they are also granted. So if you want to do this, there is the method of just clicking like add permission, Microsoft Graph, application permission, and then you just search for the ones that you need. And after you edit them all, you also have to grant admin consent for that. Otherwise, they are just added to the manifest, but they are not really allowed to work yet. For the Exchange Online permissions, it's a bit different. Let me just have a look there. I think it's that you need to do this in
the Exchange portal, right?
I think in the Exchange portal. I'm not 100% sure at the moment.
Yeah.
I will have to look this up because I have not set it up myself yet. And I think we're still missing this in the online guide as well.
Yeah, right.
But basically, it should be either through this or through the Exchange Online module. And let's just look it up from exchange.microsoft.com, and I think it's
just another question.
There was a reference in the master dev documentation for the RBAC rules required in Exchange Online, which reference the Microsoft documentation.
I think we have the view-only configuration or the support view.
Yeah.
But still, I think to connect this, and we have to go to roles, admin roles. And in this case, let's use the built-in one. So this would be, come on, view.
Yeah, and there you add your service principal, right? Or
yeah, that should be possible. Let's try this out. If it accepts something like that, but I'm not 100% sure yet. I have to get back to you on this one.
Yeah. And also we're having another question. Can Maester authenticate with a certificate also?
Oh, yes, of course. So basically, we support everything that the native commandlets support. What we do when we type connect master in the background is just calling the different native commandlets, something like connect mggraph, and then of course you can use a certificate. So in theory, you don't need to use connect master. Connect master is more meant for if you use something interactively, then it's the easiest way because it will put in the correct scope and everything. But if you like set up something like this, it's just connect mggraph, and that's it. Because you don't, with the federation and everything, you don't have to like define which permissions in graph you want, because they are already assigned and consented to the application that you are using. And of course, if you have this set up with a certificate, so you uploaded the public certificate to this application, then you can, oh, this was the wrong one. I didn't want to close this. So if I would be able, put in a certificate here, and then I could authenticate with that. What I recommend if you're using a pipeline is using federated credentials.
Right.
A federated credential is like a way to trust another identity provider, in this case GitHub or Azure DevOps, that they will do the authentication for you based on a certain claim. And in my case, this is the repository I set up. So it's called, so fbader is my GitHub name. The repository is named Fun with Pester. And in that, I define that it has to be the main branch that can authenticate. And within this whole authentication process in GitHub, I don't need any secret, I don't need any certificate, nothing. It's just that it runs in this context, in this branch, that allows it to connect to Entra ID. And that way I can be like completely without a password, without any secret that can get spilled. As long as I have secured my repository the correct way, I can authenticate to this application. Let's have a look at this in just a minute, because the master results are in for Exchange. And if we now have a look at the Exchange Online, you will see it's no longer skipping, but now you can see that they have been tested. And again, you get additional information when you go in here. So it's not just fail or working. It's like, okay, you don't have any automatic forwarding disabled. And where is it? Oh yeah, in your default policy. How you can fix it? Go to the Exchange Admin Center, go to Mailflow, remote domains, and set this up correctly. Another way is, okay, IP allow list should not be created. Look in here. Oh yeah, well done, you don't have any. If you had any, and again, explanation on how to fix it, how to change it. I understand this is not something you can just do, because most likely you have those for a reason in there, but it's always make it easy to understand on how to fix it, but still it needs always the expertise of you to understand why you are changing something here.
Is there also a chance to have some kind of a exception list or so that you can that you say, okay, this is a best practice, but I have some legacy stuff that I maintain, but I don't want to have that appear every time on the test has failed.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And the easiest way to do this is when you run master, just say not tag, but exclude tag. And again, now you can define exactly which test you want to skip, you don't want to have in your test, because you know this will not be true for us and it's currently not interesting for us. I don't want to see it fail every time. Just add that. And we don't have to be like, okay, just one, but we can also do this like multiple. So we don't want to test this one over here because it looks bad on the report. And let's see which one else. Oh, this one down here. Yeah, calendar detail stuff. I want to share this with everybody. So just do this. And now it will run through the whole thing again, but will exclude every test that has exactly this tag. And as you might already seen, those tags, there are different ones. So we can skip MSXO completely if we don't want to have like the skip list, because we don't ever want to test Exchange Online. Yeah, just exclude the whole test part or the CISA part. Yeah, I want to test most of the PESTA stuff, but CISA are not required for me, or all. I don't want to test anything. It just has to be green, empty report. Or security. I'm not interested in security. Leave me alone. Of course, the last ones will most likely not make you happy. But now let's see. We had this XO 6.2, and it's gone. So we see 6.1. 7.1, but 6.2 is gone. We don't have anything skipped or whatever. It's just not there in the report anymore.
Nice.
All right, so much for how to run Pester in a really interactive way. So you are connecting, you're giving your consent for this application in the moment. This application is not master in that case, because since we are using Connect MG Graph in the background, it's the Microsoft Graph PowerShell module you grant those permissions to. We are just using it. But since we already talked about pipelining and everything, let's see how this looks. So I have, as you have already seen, a pipeline set up, found with Pester. And this is a really simple and mostly empty repo in my case. So it just has a GitHub Workflows folder. And in this GitHub Workflows folder, there is the master YAML. And this is the actual action that is defined in here. It's named master daily tests. It is on the branch main every time something gets pushed, or there's also a schedule that it runs at midnight every day. Then we have a few permissions that we need to upload the results and all this stuff. So ID token is required, so we can get a token from GitHub and connect with it to Active Directory. The contents is just so we can read the repository's content, because we want to have the tests in there if there would be any. And the check write is so we can upload the result at the end. And then we have the job, and the job says, okay, run master test. So this is a name you can choose whatever you want. The name is also up to you. It runs on Ubuntu latest. You can also choose PowerShell on Windows if you like, but it works great in Ubuntu as well. And then we have one step. And this step is super simple, because what we do here is say run master action from master 365 master main. So what does this mean? Let's have another look at the GitHub repository of master. In there, you can already see this at the top. So master itself has a GitHub action published to the marketplace, and this is that. And down here, you can see how to set it up, everything. This is just the README. And what actually happens in this moment where I say run this it will use the action YAML that is defined in the master repo. So in here, we have the actual GitHub workflow action defined. And there are the different steps we are doing. But you don't have to deal with any of this if you don't want to change something. We have a few different configuration options. First one is you have to add a client ID. This is required because we have to know to which application you want to connect. And in my case, this will be the application client ID from my app registration here. Then I have a tenant ID. That's the tenant ID of my tenant, of course. And then I can define which kind of verbosity I like, and do I want a mail report at the end? And if so, which user should be used to send those emails? Of course, this will also require some permissions. And if we go back to these API permissions, there should be something in here that allows me to send email. Yeah, it's called mail send. Since Graph is not really fine-grained, it will allow me to send as any user, but you can use app conditions on Exchange to now, again, limit this to a certain user. But yeah, that's basic Graph and Exchange stuff, nothing we have invented here. So this runs every day at midnight and will send an email to this account from this account. And in the background, we are using this information to first log into Azure. Then we use your client ID and tenant ID for the inputs here. Then we create some name, some variable here that contains the current date. Then we check out the latest and greatest public tests that are available. And then we also see, do you have any private tests? This means if I would not have a completely empty repository, but I would have a folder here named private tests, then this would be the folder that will also be downloaded and tested while running in the master action. So this means you can have your own private tests in this GitHub repo without that we see any of it. And then we have the actual run master part. So first we get a token for Microsoft Graph. Then we use this token to connect actually to Microsoft Graph. So you can see we are using the connect MG Graph and the access token that we just got from this connection. And this connection was made available through the initial Azure login part over here. Currently, there's not included like connect to Exchange and everything like that. It's just the basic Graph stuff. Then we have the install module master. So we're downloading the latest stable version of master. And then creating a a Pester configuration at the verbosity level that you choose. Add some stuff like where should the path be? So it is always the GitHub workspace where you're currently in your repo. How is the output folder named? How is the file name named? And then another few steps where we check if there is any tag or exclude tags, and then we add that in there. So you can, of course, also exclude stuff and include stuff if you want in this way. And at the end, somewhere over here, we have the invoke master. And then this runs, does the same as you have seen on my machine. And to make it now available to you, we use the action upload artifact and say, hey, upload those tests, and those are in the test results. Since GitHub does not have any understanding of the XML that Pester is generating, we have to do it a bit different, and also now we have the ability to enrich it with our own HTML. And it's not actually the HTML we are uploading here, it's a markdown file. And when we go to the latest action that was run in my environment, you can see, okay, this happened. And then down here coming the master test itself. So within GitHub, you now have already your report with all the different tests in here. And of course, we also include all the explanation in here. So all the information you had in the HTML report before is also available in this report. Just it's in your own pipeline. And of course, the same also works like with Azure DevOps, or in theory with every other pipeline that supports running PowerShell and connecting somewhere. Azure DevOps and GitHub both support the federated identity part, so the really simple authentication. In other pipelines, you might have to work around that with using like certificates or, God forbid, secrets, and connect to Graph in another way. But that is basically what we do when you are running it on a GitHub repository. So far, any questions? All right, so let's switch back from the demo part to a bit more slide parts. And one important thing that made this thing possible is that we are using something in the background, and this is Maester. So actually, Maester is completely reliant and dependent on the PowerShell framework Maester. And what we have built is just a way to abstract all those regular Maester tests from you as a user and build something where you get this nice report, the nice explanation and everything. But we are using Maester as the core of our complete test framework. So we didn't want to build something new because Maester is great and has so much flexibility. It's actively maintained. We just wanted to have a bit more nuance in what we can publish and give the user. Because if you have ever run Maester, it can get really, really developy, because that is the reason why it's there. So let's have a look at how this would be if we not Maester configuration. We want to have the verbosity set to detailed and verbose. So now you can see, now we get all the verbose output, we get all the Maester output in a minute, and this of course can be a bit much if you are not used to doing all this test framework stuff and everything. So for somebody that is a sysadmin and has never used Maester before, this can be really intimidating because you have like all those results in here. Okay, some are green, nice, but what about those red ones? And there it says, oh, it should be required, expected true, but policy requires it got false. Yeah, that is only slightly helpful for somebody who is not really into it and knows how to look that up. And we just wanted to have something where the user is able just to go in, have a website, and be like, okay, what was the error? Oh, we have this like MSAAD38. No problem. Let me just go in here and look that up. Oh, nice. What is it? Okay. This is the configuration. That is a complete explanation, including the remediation steps, as I told you. So we hope this makes it much more approachable for a larger audience that is just not used to how Maester works and how all this in the background is working. And that is why we just are on top of Maester, and helping, and we have built-in tests that we published, that the community published, And we started with only the small part of like Entra tests. There were already like 40 tests in there. But now after about 4 months, 5 months even, we are at about 88 tests, growing each day because we have a really, really awesome community. So those are all the 28 contributors so far. We had over 220 pull requests, over 1,400 commits already. And yeah, it's just growing by the day. And even if it's just like somebody coming in and saying, hey, I have an issue because this test is not what I would expect from it, this helps us to change even some test logic over time, because we might have tested something in a tenant where we have a P2 license, but somebody has a free license, and let's see how we can test this now. Or somebody has a P1 license and P2 tests were not working as expected. Stuff like that, of course, happens when you develop, and the community was amazing giving us feedback here. So yeah, there's also a bit of a call out for everybody to be the next contributor to Pester and helping us out here and giving back to the community. And if you want to do that, then just feel free to go over to the GitHub repo of Maester and start by creating an issue if you have found something. So if it's like, hey, I don't know how to set up this exchange, the docs are really not helpful in this moment for me, please let me know. So other people can pick it up and try to improve. Or if you feel like it, of course, the pull requests are also open. Go in, create a pull request, and after a quick review, we will most likely merge it, or maybe have a few comments on how to improve it and then merge it. But this is really meant as like a community-based project. It's not something where either Thomas, Meryl, or I have the upper hand, so to say. So like the complete CISA tests were contributed by the community. That is really, Snoozeberries has done an amazing job. He has built so many tests for Exchange Online as well. So yeah, it's nice to see that there are so many people contributing to this, and yeah, allowing us to grow this project and give back even more to the community over time. And as you have seen, we also want to expand to the whole Azure part as well. So currently there are not that many tests. So if we have a look in the report here, where was it? There is not that much AZ tests yet in here. But yeah, that's something we definitely want to explore. We want to expand different tests in there as well, to give security advice as to you as well in this regard. And maybe you have some best practice where you're like, hey, this may be something the community needs to know. Yeah, just go over to our GitHub, create a nice pull request or issue for that, and let us know what you need. And
so is it just as easy as described in the docs? So just create a file in the custom folder and write your Pester test, and this will be included, or is there a bit more magic behind this?
So basically what we do in the code is just that. We have Pester tests. Let me just open up my Visual Studio Code here. So we have our code in here, and the base module itself is under PowerShell, and this is all the different modules that we use internally or publicly. As you can see, we also have like put them in different folders to make it easier to understand where which where. And if we look at something like the core, there's like the install test and everything. But in the other folders, we have the, let me switch over to the main branch for a second here. That's better. We have the different helper modules that we use. And we also have a few PowerShell modules that we use for the tests, because we also wanted to make it writing a test really easy. If you have ever written a PowerShell nested test, it can be really complicated soon if you have to get everything yourself. And if you look in that, it's a really, really clean test. So we have this test, and there's just calling, okay, test empty CA device compliance exists, and it should be true. And for some of those, you can give different parameters with that. So like the test CA emergency access exists. No, in this case, we don't have one. Let me see where we have a parameter. Yeah, here we can have a parameter. Okay, skip check all users is not that big of a parameter, but in the end, we have a few where you can like change the behavior based on your needs already and just be like, okay, I built my own empty 1010, copy that code over in the test and just change the parameter. Or of course, if you want to go crazy and build your own custom test for some particular thing we never thought about, but is only applicable in your environment, then you just go over in the custom test folder, create a new one, and there's also a little helper file in here. Oh no, it's just explaining that part. We have it, I think, in the demo. Let me do something here. So demo dot it always has to be tests.ps1. That's the name how Maester recognizes test. And then you can see it's always a describe part. So this will be the block where you run something. So this will be the custom tests for the user group. And then we change this to user group tests. And in that case, let's do custom 101 and my custom test. So you don't have to do all this. If you don't like the text, you can just remove it. And now comes the part where you would have to build your own test. And let's see if we can use something here as a source for that. I think we have a few in here where we also, yeah, this one would be a good example. So we will going to check something where the license is required. So we use the get empty license information with the Entra ID. And we want to skip the check if it's not P2 licensed. And if it's P2 licensed, then we actually do our test. And this could be something like invoke empty graph result, graph request. And then we can be like, okay, the relative URL. And now we just define what we want to test. Now we have to be like, okay, I know I want to test this certain setting in the graph API. Then I can request that. And then define my actual test outcome here. So in this case, let's do, okay, check .id. So we have like, oh no, we already expanded it. So we're getting all the users and an ID, and we want to have contain this ID. For some reason, we want to have that. So this would be a really basic test with already some advanced information about the license part around it. And of course, this one will definitely fail. I don't have any user who has this GUID, but I hope you get the idea on how to really do something here. Of course, this part, the creating the test part, can get a bit messy depending on how good your understanding of the PowerShell graph already is. Because at that moment, of course, you have to go to the graph and check something here. We mostly use the empty graph module because it gives us caching and paging and all the stuff that the regular one doesn't give us. But if you want to use the new Entra PowerShell module that Microsoft just released, just install it as a dependency beforehand, put it in here, and you can use it, no problem. So this is where we are now back at. We are just using Maester. So you can do everything that Maester allows you in this test. You can go completely nuts in there and do crazy things with for each and everything. Or you can just use what's already there and try to improve on top of that.
Just so thank you for this. I think this is very valuable if you want to add your own tests. And I think there should be, I've just opened the doc about the custom test stuff. So I think what you showed, I think should be a bit more guided, or there should be a commandlet or so for this to create a test that you have some kind of skeleton prepared for the task, I think. So this could be an improvement. And about the invoke empty graph requests. So does this only trigger the V1 thing, or do you have the also this for the beta, or is it okay? This is
no problem. You can just change the API version to
okay, nice.
beta, and yeah, of course. I guess I think most of our commandlets are built on that.
Okay. And if you want to dig deeper into the relative URI, so if you want to have something like manage devices, manage device ID, and so on, can I extend the relative URI, or do you, or how?
Of course.
Okay.
So we are completely going. So let's try to do a complete example here. So let's.
Sorry
API.
for this.
Yeah, no worries. Let's see. That's not a good example because we'll get something, but maybe audit log query. Or you had devices, so let's do that. Devices.
Yeah, let's list all devices.
So list all devices would be okay. Get user owned devices. So in that case, let's build a check where we want to be like, okay, we want to check somebody's devices. And now we have to just figure out the ID that we want to use for that. In that case, I'm going to go to the Entra portal again. And then let's select one of my test users that most likely has some device attached to it. And yeah, that would be the user. So we put it in here. And if we have a look here, yeah, definitely some devices in here. And we remove this. We just want to have everything in here. And we want to make sure that now let's use the X-ray graph for that to get the correct graph. By default, there is it. Okay. And just refresh. There we go. If you don't know that module, Microsoft Graph X-Ray, it's also from Merrill. It's amazing, and you can see registered owner devices is what he's calling here, and but we don't see the exact result. So,
and just a plug, if you want to know more, there is also a session on my YouTube channel on the on the user group YouTube channel, because Fabian was so nice to tell us all about X-Ray. I think it was last or the second last session or so. So I will check the I will paste the YouTube channel into the chat. Check it out. Just
users, somewhere it has to be. So yeah, that's the correct part at least, and somewhere in here we should get the name or something. So
last one for Graph X-Ray, just Bill mentioned.
There it is. So we want to check the display name in our test. So check the display name, and this should contain whatever I just selected here. And I hope contain is the correct one, because we need this device. And now let's switch back to the test itself. There it is. Since I now have this in another folder, I just have to make sure that I am going to this. And in that case, let's invoke master with the path and just say, okay, we want to use this one here. It only picks up our one test. Let's see if this works. Creates our report, and it failed. Okay, so most likely I have some error in here still. The test failed completely, so it most likely threw an error. But that, yeah, it's live coding.
Yeah.
So it didn't run correctly. We will try this once again, and if it doesn't work, then we will skip it for today.
Yeah.
So we just check if contain is the correct one. Yeah, it should be correct.
And do you have the right permissions? So
yeah,
are you
that's
able
also
to
a good question.
Are you able to read the devices?
For some reason, query not.
Robert, I will get to this question in a moment. Just bear with us.
Why didn't that work?
Okay,
it's trying to use the cache now, but
yeah, just okay.
But for some reason, okay, it says not found server, which is really
interesting.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Remove this and you're good to go. And then let's do select. Oh, come on. Select object. Expand property, and we wanted to have the display name. So again, now we can
just remove the display name on your test on the line 4, I think.
Thanks. And drum roll. Bear with me. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yay! Test passed.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, and as you can
Nice.
see, it's now here. It's tested. Of course, this now has not the perfect, nice attribution of everything. If you want to use that, then there's also the add empty test result detail, and there you can add additional information and now have this in the HTML file as well. And also check on if it throws to put something else in here, stuff like that. So you can use all this and also the HTML enrichment in your own tests with this know-how. So I heard there are some questions in the audience as well.
Yeah, so 2 questions about the learning curve or the learning path to tester. This seems to be very far away from sysadmin stuff, especially when the admin has hundreds of other tasks to do daily. Yeah, that's the typical.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
So I guess Pester is a bit of its own magic, and since it's born more in the development phase. Currently, yes, it is. That is why we build the whole thing upon Maester, upon Pester, and have this abstraction layer. And what we want to do over time is to make it much easier to change the default behavior of our own tests. So currently we are trying to enumerate which are your emergency access accounts. But in the future, we want to give you the ability to use real configuration where you can be like, yeah, no, those are the tools that I want to have tested, and want to try to remove much of the hassle of writing something your own and just allow you to change the behavior of the built-in ones. But currently, yeah, it's still, you have to learn Pester, and if you get your head around it, it's not that complicated, but getting the head around it in the beginning is what really took me also a good chunk of time. So let me just explain it for once here for this easy test. So what we are doing here, we are just running a command and storing it in the variable. And now we are just checking if in this variable we have the string desktop something. So it must be an array, and if in this array there's this string, then this test will be successful. If there's anything else in here, it will fail. So if we just change something in here, now I don't have this device anymore, and now this Pester test will fail. So this is the easiest way on how to do a Pester test. And in many cases, you can really break it down to that. So as long as you know how to write your PowerShell query up here and put something in this variable that is maybe either just false or true, so you have your logic up here, you can just be like, okay, check should be, in that case, should be true. So this way you can abstract everything in your own already existing knowledge of using PowerShell before that, and just do the check at the end.
So I have also 2 other tips. So the first tip is we had Jakub also on at our user group. I think it was the 3rd session that I did. He went, it's on Pester 5. So Pester 5, I think, is the current version of Pester at the moment. And he went from beginner to advanced. So it's a very beginner friendly session. So just watch this. So he invented some very custom, very easy tests and also dive a bit inside of into the language and so on. And also I pasted a link in the chat. It's about PS cones. It's a module where you can learn PowerShell through Pester unit testing. So you have to open it's like this. Your VS Code opens with the test. You have to make the test green to continue to the next stage. So you will not only learn PowerShell, so you can only get used to the special DSL, so the domain specific language of Pester. So it's also a cool tool to have. And also, if you want to learn, if you give it to a level 100 guy or girl to learn PowerShell, it's also a really cool tool. I think it's the thing why it was invented. So that's, I think, 2 resources where you can learn Pester. And also there are so many books around Pester, I think, out there on Pact or Manning or so. Adam Bertram, I think, wrote one, tool making and so on. So you will have much more or many resources to learn Pester here. But I give it to you. It's a bit of a learning curve, and you have to do a bit of rethinking what you want to achieve. So that's not like it was rephrased in the question. Not the typical admin thinking, where admin wants to do stuff, but a developer, for example, wants to write and then test the stuff. That's normally what a admin don't do normally. Yeah.
So, but also if you have something where you think that this would be a cool test for everybody, then it's also completely okay to just create an issue, like a feature request for it, and somebody in the community will pick it up that has maybe more knowledge about how to implement that in Pester and Maester, and then use maybe this as an learning on how you can maybe next time do something similar yourself. We also had a question from Lars a bit earlier about this is all based on security problems, and if we will adjust that if Microsoft is changing the content and handling of the portal. So yes, we will try. And again, since this is as bigger as it gets, more difficult to keep track, and especially since Microsoft is also moving stuff around in the portals. So if you find anything that is wrong, let us know. Even if you don't know the exact answer at the moment, just that we know that it's wrong can help us to make it right again.
And also,
of course, we also tried that.
And also, there was another comment which I really like, and I think that's not the goal of your product. And to be honest, I'm looking for a fix this for me button or a kind of auto unattended XML for applying the default setting. I think this is not your the main goal of this product. It's all about testing. So
not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So you want to implement something like this?
Roberts has come up, and not only come up by other people, but also by ourselves, to have the idea of maybe having fix it for me button within the test itself. Of course, this is always a bit difficult. For simple stuff, it would be really easy. Just call the graph in the background and change it. For more difficult stuff like the conditional access policies, we might not want to implement that because it can be really devastating if we just change it and nothing works anymore, and then you're calling us and be like, hey, you broke our tenant. That's also what we want to avoid. But yeah, the idea is definitely not out of this world, and definitely something we try to think about how we can do this safely without breaking tenants. And I guess for some of the settings, it might be something that is easy to implement. For others, it might never work because it's just too complicated to just do it with a one-click solution.
Yeah, and I think you use it with caution if this is there. Just like Fabian said. So maybe you should do a red button, a big red button. So you always do a red border around it use it with caution or so.
Yeah, we all know how good that works.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So do it, for example, only for the easy parts, but not for the hard parts or so. But yeah, someone has to think about this. Yeah, that definitely. But yeah, if it will happen, I think it would be a cool stuff, and because it's open source, everyone can profit from this, and on how you can automate it. That's also a cool stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, and about the whole unattended XML idea for default settings, yeah, I guess that we won't go that far, that we will provide our own thing here, because I think many companies now use something like Terraform or other automation tools to change that, and they are much better at handling state and everything like that. So that is really hard to do in a large scale, and there are other projects out there with much more developer that do that. But yeah, I guess for simple things, having a fix me button, definitely something we explore.
Yeah, if you look for some auto unattended XML or so, you know about DSC, just take a look at M365 DSC, for example, to have like a text-based stuff and release it with PR, for example, GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps and so on. But that's a complete different topic, I think. You don't want to go far down the rabbit hole, so. Good.
Not just now.
No, definitely not. It's too late for this. Good. Any other questions to Fabian? I think you are finished with your content, or do you have something else?
Yeah. No, so basically
Okay.
That would be all on my end. So let me just skip the sharing, and maybe we can go to an open discussion here.
Yeah.
I don't want to discuss. I only want to say thank you for the module and work behind the module. It's very, very helpful. Even it's not perfect, and it will not be perfect anywhere soon, because you have to run after Microsoft runs before you, and neither Microsoft nor you know how to run in which direction tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you very much.
Yeah. Everyone say thank you. So also a cool stuff. So I think Markus, before the session was recorded, we went over your questions that you posted on Meetup.
Yeah.
Are the questions answered, or should we go into more
Partly.
deeply?
Yeah. So I sorry to interrupt you.
So I can read the questions out if you want. So that's totally fine.
No. Yeah, you can repeat them if you like for the audience, maybe.
So we had two questions in the Meetup appointment. One is about there is a output folder path for the invoke Maester documentation, and Markus wants to push that to another repository or the same repository. So how to do this inside of Azure DevOps? So that's some question, I think, that's not related to the project itself, because it's I think it's about the Azure DevOps. So you have to find a way to inside of the pipeline to connect to your Git repository. So you have to use the Git command line to do this, and then you have to git add, git push with the message, and then it works. I think you have to also. I did this on a project before. You have to use some -no CI or so that the pipeline won't run again if a push is happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to have more guidance on this, just ping me, and I think I can send you a sample.
Yeah,
and
this would be helpful. Because Modern World asked AI about this which I did.
Perfect.
And however, I got a reply where you more or less need to provide the config for Git username and password inside the pipeline. And I'm not sure, is this best practice? Should I use kind of connection to Key Vault, or should I store it somewhere in DevOps? You can, I saw you can also store like credentials somewhere in DevOps. Question is, what is kind of the preferred best practice, secure way to
basically you don't need to have some credentials in there for Azure DevOps. It's just that you have to allow the action itself to write to the actual repository.
Right.
I will just post a link here. And the git config part is just that you give it a name and an email address for the git commit and push that will also be used in the like git history. So this can also be like pipeline as a name or something.
Yeah.
But the important part is that you set up the security so that it allows to contribute. So that's the important part, that the pipeline itself has the permission to commit, and then you don't need any secret or something else, no personal access token in that. It just can do it on its own then.
Yeah.
So question, when we set up the pipeline through for Maester, we also have a service connection which is allowed to connect to the repository. So can I use this kind of service principle for this, or?
I'm not sure if the service principle itself is possible.
And I think you have to. Yeah,
I figured it out.
That's no. That's inside the post that Fabian posted here. You have to go inside of your repositories, and in step 5 it is search for project collection build service, and this build service needs to have rights on your to contribute, to create a branch, to read, and to create a tag, and so on. And then you have to to make some changes to YAML pipeline. So that's well described in the Learn article.
Yeah,
I think.
I will go through.
Yeah, and I think that's also the same that I did. I think 2 or 3 years ago or so, to make that work also. Yeah, so that's a good source. This article. Yeah. So, and the second question was.
Yeah, I think there was also the question about connecting to the exchange.
Right. Yeah.
So what you basically can do is, since you already have like get access token, you can also use the get access token with the exchange part, and then when you use connect exchange online, there's also the option to put that in here. Or of course, if you have something like a certificate, you can provide it here as well and use it for the authentication. But in the pipeline, I would always use the native commands and not the connect MT master part, just because it gives you the full flexibility. We don't parse every possible pipeline switch through, so you definitely have the full supportability with the native one.
In the meantime, I also had a look at the exchange documentation, and more or less, as I not completely figured it out. However, you can create a kind of service principle for the Maester service connection account, where you would need the app ID and the object ID from the enterprise application, and then you somehow need to assign the management role view only configuration to it, and then it should also be possible to use the service account connection more or less you already have. If you already have a account for this. So this is what I will try. And when I figured it out, I will definitely also commit it to the project.
Yeah, perfect.
Because I guess others are also challenged with this. In the meantime, maybe just set up another app registration with certificate-based authentication and use this, I guess, for connecting to Exchange.
Yeah,
No.
let's check it out. Check it out, and if you have a blog, just do a blog post, or
I have none.
but
I will
committed to the help project, to the help
definitely.
of Maester. So yeah.
If I figure it out, I will.
Yeah.
Let me just post something in here.
Yeah.
He definitely, the last link is something where he has some solution for doing that. I'm not 100% sure if that is what you're going for, but I think it's not that bad.
Here.
Yeah, so in Azure Automation, of course, I can use the managed identity to connect to Exchange Online. However, in Azure DevOps, I have no
you don't have
managed identity.
Yeah, you have to use the service principal that you have in your service connection. So
yeah, so the kind
you
of
you have to pray that
workload identity.
No, the workload identity is inside of the Azure DevOps. So it's the thing that you need to have to git push. I think the service connection that you have, your service principal that lives inside of Entra, I think should be the right decision for this, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just will try.
We have to test it out, and if you have it, then maybe write a markdown document and contribute it to Maester. I think that's what.
Yeah, I try.
I think would be a good thing.
Yeah.
So that leaves me to the question to another question, Fabian. How can people so can anyone send a pull request? Do you have certain guidelines around the project? Do a markdown document or a script or a function has to look a certain way, or what's the guideline around this?
So if you want to contribute and look for guidance on that, we also have in our docs some explanation on what you can do and how to start with this. Also on how to contribute to the docs and how to contribute to new tests. Basically, at the moment, we don't have any formal, like this has to be in the test to be accepted. In the end, we always look for interesting tests that are applicable to all tenants and follow public guidance. So it shouldn't be like, yeah, but I like it red. Everybody else in the world likes it blue, and now I write a test that says it has to be red. So there will be some test check from either me, Meryl, or other core contributors who just have a look on it and validate it against the public documentation, also by Microsoft, if that is really what is recommended. But that's basically it. So we try to keep it at the moment really low key, what formal requirements there are. And of course, if we don't think that is a test that is good for the core module, that's still something where we might be like, okay, let's do some community custom tests and maybe publish them there. So far we didn't have that yet, but I guess that would be a route in the future where we'd be like, okay, let's create another repo for cool custom tests that shouldn't be in the core module, but should be in the public knowledge, so anybody can build upon them.
And I think it would also be cool. So if I want to build something, I always do it in a module. So maybe to support some stuff in Maester that they can say, okay, my tests are in this module, so import the tests from the module inside of the Maester scope and run it from there. At the moment, you have to copy it to the custom scope. So is this also a way you think about, or?
Yeah, if you want to like contribute it to the core module, then definitely go for it. So we always try to keep the tests as well as the functions in the core module, and don't rely too much on too many other outside stuff. But if it makes sense, because there's like a super big module with 50 tests in there that could be included, then definitely that can be an option. It's more like the 8SCAR stuff, where we have like a third-party source for that, and maybe generate tests out of it. So that could be definitely something.
Yeah, but I think that's not what I meant. I meant
okay, sorry.
If I have invented my own module where all my tests are there, so all my test files are there with my helper functions and so on. At the moment, I think Maester is not able to consume the tests from a module. So you have to put your tests in custom folder, I think. So is there something planned for, so like say invoke Maester and then you say dash module for example, and give it a module, and then Maester will get the tests from the module and execute them? Is this a scenario that you think about, or
I haven't thought about it yet. So,
okay.
But also, I must say, I haven't yet seen a module like doing just tests.
Okay.
So, just something I never have thought about for now.
Maybe this would be a scenario. So to have a test module suite for Maester or so. But yeah, just what's going around in my mind. But yeah.
Yeah, if you have something there, let us know. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Any other questions? I'm talking too much. Sorry. Any other questions? Okay. Then wish you a good night, good morning, or so, whatever is in your time zone. And yeah, thank you, Fabian, again for speaking today. And,
thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Do you know already when your next user group meeting is, and what's the topic around, or have you thought?
The next meeting will be somewhere in mid-August. We still have to fix on the date, but if you want to join there, I will post the link to our meetup in the chat as well. Thank you for the nice plug.
Thank you.
And so we definitely will have something in August, and
how can we get in touch with you or with the other organizer to plug a session or to speak at the user group?
Oh, we also have Sessionize, and if you also will put that in here. But yeah, we have a call for speaker on Sessionize, and always welcome if somebody has a good idea, or just wants to present something nice he or she did. Please feel free to send us something over.
So yeah, let's see if I will do a CFP. Let's see.
Yeah, nice.
About one of my sessions at the PSConf, I think there would be a session around dev containers, for example. So why not also? Yeah, and also mention Cloud Identity Summit on the 5th of September. Markus plugged also. So yeah, let's give a shout out to this conference also. I think you are not one of the organizers, Fabian, I think, but I think
No,
it's
I'm not.
Gregor Reimling, I think it is.
Yeah,
But,
Gregor and also
yeah.
Thomas. So
Yeah.
my other guy from the Maester module is at least also.
Yeah,
that's why I mentioned this event, because it's also quite nice. So I just sent my attendee thing. So yeah.
Nice. Okay, good. So if somebody else has something to plug, so feel free. So Marco, cheers. Bye bye. So okay, if there are nothing else, then yeah, thank you for attending and see you next month or somewhere else. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everything.
Yeah, bye bye.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Goodbye.